and replace Obamacare, but a lot of conservatives on Capitol Hill say the bill doesn't go far enough. They mockingly refer to it as Obamacare light. So what's in and what's out? CNN's Tom Foreman has that for us. Tom?
Hey, Don, the Trump plan keeps several of the most popular parts of Obamacare. You can still keep your kids under your coverage until the age of 26. You can't be denied insurance because of pre-existing conditions, and there are no annual or lifetime limits on insurance benefits. But it also drops some key components of Obamacare. The individual mandate, which says everyone has to be insured or pay a penalty, would be gone. So would the employer mandate, which forced businesses with 50 or more employees to provide health insurance, and government subsidies to help cover the out-of-pocket expenses for people would be replaced by refundable tax credits for those folks. And there is this huge change. Medicaid, which covers care for poor and low-income people, has always been funded in a fungible way, meaning if the costs go up, the number of people change in a state, the federal money to help changes too. Not anymore. Under the Trump plan, each state would receive a set amount of money each year, and there would be plan caps for federal funding for all of this over time. So they have to work it out as best they can. As much as anything else, this provision is where critics think a lot of people could fall through the cracks and wind up uninsured again. So what's going to keep people in the system? If you let your insurance policy lapse under the Trump plan, the new plan would allow insurers to sock you with a 30% surcharge. And one last thing, in a nod to social conservatives who oppose abortion rights, the Trump plan includes a provision to cut all federal funding to Planned Parenthood. Don?
Thank you, Tom Foreman. President Trump campaigned on repealing and replacing Obamacare. So did many Republicans in Congress. But a lot of GOP lawmakers were confronted last month at town halls all over the country, including right here on CNN, and by Americans concerned that they might lose their health insurance. I want to bring in Jeff Jeans. He's a cancer survivor who says Obamacare saved his life, and Katie McFarland, an Obamacare supporter who attended a town hall to tell her story. She joins us via Skype. Thank you both for coming on again. How are you both doing? Okay?
Just fine. Thanks for having us on, Don.
Katie?
Hey, is it kind of a...
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great,
yeah.
Thank you. You were saying, Jeff, go on.
Hey, Don, just as kind of a little side note, just to show how small of a world this really is, Katie and I graduated from the same high school in Missouri.
Oh, wow. It is a small world. And now you're on international TV together. So again, thank you guys so much for joining us. So Jeff, I'm going to start with you. The night of CNN's town hall, you confronted Speaker Ryan with your story. I want you to listen and then we'll talk about it.
I was a Republican and I worked for the Reagan and Bush campaigns. Just like you, I was opposed to the Affordable Care Act. When it was passed, I told my wife we would close our business before I complied with this law. Then, at 49, I was given 6 weeks to live with a very curable type of cancer. We offered 3 times the cost of my treatments, which was rejected. They required an insurance card. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, I'm standing here today alive. Being both a small business person and someone with pre-existing conditions, I rely on the Affordable Care Act to be able to purchase my own insurance. Why would you repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement?
Oh, we wouldn't do that. We want to replace it with something better.
Okay, so Jeff, you gave me the cursory that you're doing okay, and we hope that you didn't just mean it in the cursory way, that you are doing okay. But I want to ask you, we now have Speaker Ryan's plan. Is it clear to you whether you would still be able to get treatment for cancer at this point?
Well, it's all kind of up in the air. The interpretations, you know, it's kind of a fresh piece of legislation. I guess as long as you can afford to pay the premiums, I guess I could still get treated for cancer. I turn 55 next month, or this year, excuse me, not next month, thank God yet. But one of the provisions of the new law is that they can charge up to 5 times the amount that they charge younger people for a policy. Right now, under the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, it's 3 times. So I equate that to almost a 2/3, jump in my premiums.
Mm-hmm. So a similar question, Katie, because you suffer from a rare condition. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have that right, and I hope I have that right.
Correct.
You confronted Senator Tom Cotton at a town hall a few weeks ago. Let's listen to that first.
Without the coverage for pre-existing conditions, I will die. That is not hyperbole. I will die. Without the protections against lifetime coverage caps, I will die. So my question is, will you commit today to replacement protections for those Arkansans like me who will die or lose their quality of life or otherwise be unable to be participating citizens trying to get their part of the American dream? Will you commit to replacements in the same way that you have committed to the repeal?
Thank you, Katie.
So I'm sure you haven't had a chance to read the entire thing, Katie, but do you know how the new Republican bill will affect you?
I do, and I am very concerned about one thing in particular, which is, I may be in error on this, but I read there will be a 30% surcharge on people with pre-existing conditions if they have a coverage gap of 63 days. And that might not seem like a big deal for people with pre-existing conditions that don't have ongoing treatment, but for people like me with ongoing needs, people who, even with the ACA protections, have unmanageable out-of-pocket expenses. For example, I'm having to raise over $61,000 in out-of-pocket expenses this year alone. I'm having a crowdfund on my site, youcaring.com/KATIEDS, and that's just to afford a fraction of my bills. And people like me, we have to go around and schlep links like that on national television, unfortunately, like begging in the street, and we're reduced to crowdfunding for our basic needs. And these coverage gaps can happen in so many different ways that I'm afraid that it's going to cause even more people to fall through the cracks, because you can lose your employments, you can lose, you can turn 26 and not have something immediately lined up through the exchange, and they haven't really made clear what they're going to do
Katie,
about the exchange.
So you're right in part of it, and this is as I understand it from the, as much as we understand now, that's anyone who allows their health care to
Yes.
allows a gap there, who has a gap there for 63 days, that they'll have to face a penalty. So
Yes.
What are your biggest concerns then with the Republican approach?
My biggest concerns is that it's so hard to put into words. It seems like punishment for the marginalized among us. When we're already reduced to extremely high premiums, we're reduced to crowdfunding, that surcharge, that penalty. It tells Americans that our lawmakers don't care about the marginalized among us. It tells us that they don't care if we live or die, because it's going to make that much more of a financial and a psychological burden. And being poor and anxious is bad enough when you're healthy, but when you're intractably ill, it's worse. And sorry, it's been.
It's okay.
I'm scared, honestly, because my insurance right now is up in the air myself, and I'm just afraid people like me who, I just turned 26, and my insurance can't tell me whether or not I'll be able to continue my coverage as a disabled child or as turning 26 as a qualifying event. And I'm just afraid that in situations like mine, it's going to happen a lot more than people think, and we're going to fall through the cracks. And it's as bad as our system is, as flawed as it is, this plan is more flawed. It's insulting, and it's going to kill people.
Well, that's one of the reasons we have you on, is to explain to the American people, and I'm sure there are many people out there who empathize with you, and just to we have you on so that people can hear your story, and that they will try to seek more information. And if this bill is indeed repealed and replaced, that it is a much better bill, or it works for the bulk of Americans rather than just a few. So I want to play this for you. This is Speaker Paul Ryan today about the bill. Listen.
Let's not forget, Obamacare is collapsing. Obamacare isn't staying. If we did nothing, the law would collapse and leave everybody without affordable health care. We are doing an act of mercy by repealing this law and replacing it with patient-centered health care reforms that we as conservatives have been arguing for and fighting for years.
Jeff, he says it is an act of mercy to repeal it and replace it with this plan. I imagine you have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm really disappointed that the new law talks more about profits and tax cuts more than it does about patient protections and expanding health care coverage for every American, You know, I feel really disheartened for the poor and middle class of this country that are living paycheck to paycheck, and you know, they budget for health care, and by taking away the subsidies and replacing it with a year-end tax credit, you know, so many millions of people are going to lose coverage. You know, I had the privilege of speaking with Speaker Ryan's healthcare staff a little over a week ago, and I gave them some very creative ideas that expanded healthcare, guaranteed healthcare for every person, and unfortunately, I didn't hear any of my points come out in the new plan that they've proposed.
Yeah, Jeff, Katie, thank you so much. Best of luck. Keep us updated, okay?
Thank you for having us, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Just ahead, the White House wants to pay for the expensive border wall with deep cuts to agencies that protect Americans. Wasn't Mexico going to pay for that wall? That's next.